this last week, I received multiple questions about tips on cultivation. How can one cultivate with the understanding that there are no shortcuts, that cultivation is a journey that has to be walked one step at a time. So with that as our understanding, are there some ways that are better? Well, indeed there are. Through years of observation on other people, what I have done is that I attempt to discern when some people have made tremendous progress. I want to understand what is behind their success, what is behind their seemingly rapid progress within a short period of time. And I have found the same patterns over and over again. I find that they utilize and leverage the power of yin and yang. So I want to talk about how I think they do it, whether they are consciously aware of taking those actions, congruent with the Tao or not. I think if I identify what their methods are, I think that the rest of us can also utilize the same and also propel ourselves toward greater levels of cultivation. And it's actually quite simple when you come right down to it. It's about leveraging the power of the yin and yang. So let me talk about that. So what do I mean by leveraging the power of yin and yang? Well, let's begin with the yin and yang symbol itself. I want to get some of the basics out of the way. So our expression, yin and yang, I want to first make sure that I help everyone identify which half is yin, Y-I-N, and which half is yang. So generally speaking, the yin and yang symbol depicted in black and white, two complementary halves of a totality. So the best way to think of it is to think of night and day. So the black half represents nighttime, and the white half represents daylight. So the day part, the bright part, is the yang component, and the other side, the dark, is the yin. Now, when we say it like that in English, oftentimes there are negative connotations associated with the word dark or darkness. Now, in the original Chinese, there is no such negativity. Yin and yang are both negative and positive, good and bad. It all depends. So when I say positive and negative, positive is associated with yang, which is on the left-hand side, and yin is associated with negativity. It's better to not think of the positive and negative as value judgments, like I feel positive about this, oh, that's a lot of negative energy. When we talk about the positive and negative associated with yin and yang, it's better to think of the polarities like on a battery. On a battery, you're going to have the positive end, the negative end, the plus and the minus sign. Which one is better? Well, they're not better. Neither one of them is better than the other. Both the positive and the negative leads are absolutely necessary in order for electricity to work. So that's the context. Now, in English, we often say yin and yang, and that comes from Chinese. In Chinese, you would say yin yang. You would not say yang yin, and therefore the straightforward translation is yin followed by yang. And usually we add a and, A-N-D, yin and yang, because it is presumed in Chinese, but in English we have to make it a little bit clearer. In English, I have heard people say yin yang, and I have also heard people say yin and yang. So both are correct. So just so we recognize the fact that in this particular depiction, I have yang on the left-hand side, yin on the right-hand side. Now, could it be the other way? Could I flip this around and have the yin on the left-hand side and yang on the right-hand side? Yes, indeed. Now, there's no real rule on which side yang has to be. Yin and yang, does yang always have to be on the left? Well, not really. The best way to think of it is to think about not a drawing on a piece of paper, but perhaps something that's painted on glass. Glass is transparent. So if you look at the painting of the yin and yang symbol on the glass from one side, you see that yang maybe on the left-hand side, like you see it here in this slide. But if you walk around the glass and look at it from the other side, it is now on the right and not on the left. So which is the correct way to see it? Well, they both are correct. So no need to get stuck on a debate on which is more correct, yin or yang on the left or on the right. That doesn't really matter. So here, it is only important for me to associate the lighter side with yang and the darker side with yin, keeping in mind that lighter and darker have nothing to do with better or worse. Okay, so let's get back to the topic at hand, which is, well, how do you, what are some examples of where people have advanced tremendously in Dao cultivation by leveraging the power of yin and yang? Well, first of all, yin and yang oftentimes associated with male and female. Yang is the active male energy, the positive energy, whereas the female energy is represented by yin. So whenever I have seen people make tremendous progress, I find that they usually leverage this kind of approach. So as an example, someone like Alex, my friend Alex, has made tremendous progress when he studies and cultivates the Tao along with his wife, Wendy. So they discuss their thinking about life, about philosophy, about spirituality. Both advance as a result. So somehow, when you come together with this, with someone of a complementary energy as yourself, there's a synergistic effect that takes place. It's far greater than you can advance on your own if you have someone else to cultivate with. So let me generalize that. When I talked about Alex, it's in his particular case, husband and wife. However, it doesn't need to be restricted to that. It could be, a friend, and it doesn't always have to be male and female. Remember, these are energies we're talking about. So the most important thing is to find another person with complementary energy to your own. That person may be of the same gender, maybe a friend that you cultivate with, that you discuss the Tao with. That's okay. Whenever two or more people come together and cultivate the Tao in a spirit of harmony, both of them advance greatly. Both of them advance far faster than each one can on his own. So in a conventional setting, many people, who have a spouse that is also interested in the Tao, this is very convenient because they share their lives together, and therefore cultivating together makes a great deal of sense. When it is not a marriage type of situation, it can still work quite well. It can be, friendship. It can be just a personal relationship. So if you are cultivating alone, I would recommend that you find someone that you can also involve, someone who's also interested, who can be involved in Tao cultivation as well, someone to discuss your ideas with. That can help tremendously because, as I said, you are leveraging the power of yin and yang. So what might be other ways of leveraging that same power, aside from cultivating with another person? Let's take a look at this. External and internal. This requires a little bit more explanation. So Internal, represented by yin. Remember, that's the black quantity there. External, represented by the covert, the easily visible, the more obvious, whereas yin is the more subtle. When you mix up the two, when you utilize both, when you combine the two, again, you can achieve a synergistic power that's far greater than using one approach by itself. So what I mean specifically is that internal can represent thinking. It can represent your internal thoughts. So this would be contemplation, reflection, reading, Tao books as an example, thinking about life, thinking about where you are in the great journey of life. External goes beyond your internal thoughts. External has to do with your interactions with the external world. So here, it is all about doing. It's all about practical applications of Tao principles, putting that to work in your daily life. So when you can do both, you advance greatly. And the best way, the best example, probably the utmost example of synergistically using both is that if you can do what Ed and Bill and Alex have done and what I have done, which is that number one, you study the Tao, and number two, you externalize your understanding. That is, you prepare a presentation for other people. You prepare a talk for other people. I find that something magical happens because in order to explain what you understand to other people, you have to organize your thoughts. That process of organizing your thoughts, bringing them into alignment with the Tao, that turns out to be extremely powerful. And when you finally express this crystallized wisdom to other people, you yourself benefit more than anyone. So that's another example of leveraging both the internal and the external. In order to explain the Tao to other people, you have to first learn about the Tao, you have to get clear on it, you have to understand it enough to explain, and that turns you yourself into the greatest beneficiary. Okay, so one more way to leverage the power of yin and yang. So here, what I'm doing is that, let me go back one slide. Now, as I mentioned, the internal, that can be your internal landscape, which means your mental states, your emotions, your spiritual self, your feelings, your soul. All of those are internal. If I zoom in on your internal mental landscape, I find that I can further divide up the kind of thoughts that you have. So, in your mind, you can have logic and intuition. So, from experience, you know that these are very different modes of thinking, different ways of trying to figure out the world. Logic is rationality, it's evaluation, it's assigning values and calculating some sort of end results. Intuition is something that goes beyond logical analysis. Intuition, great leaps. Intuition is a feeling of certainty where you just know in your guts, in your heart of hearts, that something is true. You feel and you resonate with that truth intuitively, and so it's much more emotion-based than logic. Now, using sort of a Star Trek metaphor, logic, you would naturally associate that with Mr. Spock. Intuition, the emotional side, you can assign that to Dr. McCoy. Dr. McCoy, he's the nurturing healer. He gets emotional. He's compassionate, but he's also very passionate. So he's at odds with Mr. Spock, despite the two being great friends. When you combine the two, when you are aided by your logic and your intuitive self, you are the leader. You are Captain Kirk. You are combining the best of both worlds in a synergistic way, and this can propel you to make leaps and bounds in your Tao cultivation, like the Enterprise is going into warp drive. And this is, by the way, not the only pop culture reference that I will use. Today. So to respond to your question about, what are the best ways to cultivate, I would offer the answer that you saw in the previous 3 slides, and that is to combine the power of yin and yang.